Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Owning It. I'm so excited. I have a wonderful guest here today. She is, she's a solo entrepreneur and small business owners as they build their dream business and a chase after what you want advocate with Oie Dobier. Did I say your last name right?
Yes, that is correct.
Awesome. Thank you for joining us today, Oie. How are you doing?
I am doing fabulous. I'm very excited to be on this podcast with you.
Awesome. Thank you. So, Oi and I know each other from a networking. Was it which networking event do you and I know each other from? It's been a while now.
Yes, we know each other from WBB in Stillwater, part of the Stillwater Chamber, so Women's Business Bridge.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So, I wanted to speak with Oi because Oi is going through a transition in life right now. And when I think of transitions, I think of you and the choices that you decided to make. So, Oi, why don't you tell us more about yourself, what you do, and where you are in life right now?
Sure. Well, I'm a business coach and I help entrepreneurs really find more time in their day to day by embedding working smarter, not harder philosophies in their daily habits, in their daily or weekly routines. And so I got here because a few years ago, I got passed up for a promotion.
Mm,
And this promotion, this event made me really upset. Like it triggered me, and it triggered me in a way that I was not expecting. I'll be honest, I felt like I was very qualified, more qualified than the person that got it. And obviously, the person that did the hiring didn't agree with me. And so I felt myself being angry about the whole situation, and it caught me off guard. And then I realized, wait a minute, I'm feeling worthless. And I kind of acknowledged that feeling and just really was more mad about the whole situation because gosh darn it, I wanted to give everybody the double middle finger and say, I don't need a company to feel worthy.
yeah.
And so then I thought, well, what do I need to feel worthy? I asked myself
Mhm.
the question, and unfortunately, I didn't know what the answer to that question was.
Mm. Um, you're Gen X, correct? You're
Uh,
before millennial.
yes, yes,
Okay. Okay. I feel like the generation of Gen X, like growing up, your generation was taught to really put in all the work and effort into a company, climb up the corporate ladder, be in the C suite, and you work to get that promotion.
hmm
And that was the path that you initially had and took then.
yeah. I spent many, many years climbing the ladder and basically just doing what others needed and wanted me to do.
Yeah.
I was very much a open-minded person to say, you know what, I don't have anything particular that I'm after, but whatever people needed and wanted me to do, if the opportunity arose, I would take it. And whether it played to my strengths or not, it was more of a challenge. All right, my boss wants me to do XYZ, I'll figure it out. I'm an activator, so
Mhm.
and my bosses knew that, and they knew that if we give Oi something with very little information or support for success or anything, she'll take it, right? She'll take the ball and run with it, and that really had me learn a lot of lessons as far as what I'm good at and what I'm not good at. But the interesting thing is the self-reflection didn't really happen until after I quit corporate America and became a business coach and really embedded myself in the entrepreneur world and hung out with other entrepreneurs and was really in this space of owning it and doing everyone doing their own thing for their own reasons. And that's when I really started to self-reflect on myself on that. But let me go back to my story about what happened. I
Yeah.
told you that I didn't know the answer to what do I need to feel worthy? And so that question really I pondered for a long time. It didn't really hit me until I attended this luncheon from at one of my favorite nonprofits. It's called Business Women Business Venture. Are you familiar with them? They're
Yep.
in
I've heard of
Minneapolis.
them. Yeah.
So we went to a luncheon, and the speaker of that luncheon that year was Angie from the popcorn snack Boom Chicka Pop. You're familiar with that brand?
I actually don't know. Tell me more. But that sounds like a really catchy name, though.
Yeah, it's a popcorn snack that's made here originally in, I think they're from Mankato, Minnesota.
Okay.
And so she stood up and told her story about how she became an entrepreneur, how she started the company. And her journey was long and hard, and she really was very inspiring. And I just listened to her story and said, "You know what? I can work hard like that. I do work hard like that."
Hmm.
And I have the perseverance and audacity to work hard. And why would I work so hard for somebody else? Why don't I work hard for myself? So I went home that day and told exactly what I told you to my husband. And I said, why don't we work hard for ourselves? And he's like, you have a really good point.
Hmm.
So I went off on this journey and made a decision that I was going to own a business. I had no idea what kind of business I was going to own, but I was going to do it, right? So Women Business Venture had a business planning program that I joined and spent 3 months really immersing in all things business. And then had plans to start a business, and then my husband had some health issues and he was very stressed out at his corporate job. And so we did a quick decision making flip that instead of me quitting my corporate career and starting a business, he would do it and I would support him.
Hmm.
Well, uh, come to find many things with that journey, but I had always promised I would support him as a business owner. I would be, doing my corporate job and then doing what I can to support the business. And unfortunately, I got so busy in my day job that it was hard for me to support him to the level that he needed.
Hmm.
And so what I wound up doing was watching him really go through some tough challenges as a small business owner. And I was just thinking to myself, gosh, he's a super smart person, yet his struggles are so real, so practical, and yet he's in essence drowning in his business from all the things that he needs help with. And that is really when I decided, you know what? Maybe I should become a business coach. Maybe I should support the small business owner, the entrepreneurs that are solopreneurs or have a very small team, because they need support just like everybody else, just like the big boys, but they don't have as many resources as the bigger companies. So why not? So I decided to quit my job. I went and really interviewed a bunch of business owners, and this was post COVID, so it was just
Okay.
to figure out, well, what's the environment look like after COVID, to see if things have dramatically changed or the assumptions I had about small businesses were accurate or not accurate. I learned a lot, and then I decided, yes, I can help these people, but I I don't have any experience as a business coach.
Hmm.
And so I decided to get certified as a business coach. And so that really set me up for success on that. And it was very interesting, that whole path for me. And now that's what I'm doing, is I'm supporting small business owners, entrepreneurs, really, pursue their dreams and go after what they want.
What a story you have, Oi. I'm just processing everything here. So that's why I have like a moment of silence here. So, in talking to other people too, we all have our own paths. And I think we all start because of like anger or something that happened to us that we felt that it was, we know that life was unfair. We all know that. And yet we know when it's like we've been screwed over. We know when there's a difference between life isn't fair and women screwed over. And this time you felt like you were screwed over big time.
Hmm. I was. And you know how when you give, and you don't really pay attention to things around you, you kind of, I don't want to say give blindly, but you give blindly. And
Yeah.
then you don't necessarily expect a reward,
Right.
but having a pat on the back of good job and a raise here and there are always very nice to have. And it just made me realize, yeah, I gotta stop expecting that because it's just not gonna happen. I gotta own destiny, take my destiny into my own hands and be more purposeful and intentional with
Mhm.
what I want in life versus what just doing what everybody else wants. I think I
Yeah.
didn't realize I was doing that. I guess I did realize I was doing that, but the story in my head was really around, oh, I'm open to any opportunity. You know, I'm very diverse. Um, I can start and do anything. You just gotta, let me know what you want. I framed it from that perspective and then realizing that's not the best way to live my life. Because when you take on opportunities
Mhm.
that aren't aligned to who you are, it's a struggle. It's
Mhm.
stressful. You're not set up for success. The people that are expecting things from you get disappointed. It's a lose-lose situation for everybody. Yet
Mhm.
I just felt, you know what? It's going to help me grow. It's going to help me be a better person because then I'm forced to do things that I'm not very good at. All those
Mhm.
Does this sound familiar to you?
It sounds so familiar. Everything you said, I'm like, oh, oh, oh. I felt all of that, and I think the one word that comes to my mind, and I used to be so proud of being called myself this, until I realized, oh my god, that's like cheap and being taken advantage of as being well rounded.
Mm.
When you said diversified, I'm very diverse, and to me, I'm like, I heard this all the time, and all the jobs I ever did was, we want you to be well-rounded, Paia. I'm like, oh, okay. That meant that I knew how to do everybody's job, and so that I could be, now that I look back, taken advantage of.
Mm.
Because you knew everybody's job, but I wasn't getting paid more because I knew everybody's job. I was
Mm.
well-rounded. It was, but it didn't mean well-rounded raise. It just meant that I was flexible and I was available until I got out of the situation, and I'm like, "Oh my god, that's a nice way of saying, we want you to be flexible, but we're not gonna pay you more."
Mhm. Yes, I can totally see that. The other thing too about that is, when you work on things that aren't your strength, it just makes you feel like a failure,
Yeah.
right? That you can't do the things that people are expecting you to do. But then I never asked, well, should I actually be doing those things? Because no matter how hard you try, is it something that I should be working on?
Mhm.
My business coach said something to me recently. We were talking about the topic of, I think I brought up the fact that I want to get better at having good relationships with people that aren't necessarily someone that I click with right away, right?
Mhm.
And he said something very resonating with me. He's like, boy, I decided a long time ago that I'm not going to do that anymore. I'm not going to quote unquote deal with difficult people because it's just doesn't make me happy. And he just said it so simply. And I really appreciated that because it's like, you're right. As we get older, we do realize we don't have to do everything.
Right. It's like that people pleasing. Did it feel it forced? Like we've always been taught that we should get along with everybody. It's our job to work with somebody else's personality. And do you feel that once you started your business, you got to pick and choose who you actually want to work with?
I did realize that when I found people that actually gave me energy, I could choose to spend more time with them.
Hmm.
And I also found that when I hung out with people that didn't give me energy, that actually did the opposite, drain my energy, I have more flexibility to say, you know what? I'm not going to go to that networking meeting, or I'm not going to go to this event because I don't have to, right?
Hmm.
I can make those choices. And for me, it's not necessarily people pleasing.
Okay.
It is more centered around being well rounded,
Hmm.
building skills that I don't have. So, being a skilled, talented person is what it's more about. It's about, you're being judgmental. You need to be more open to diversity of other
Hmm.
people and their thought process and their style, and all these things. And I value that. I value diversity. I value being non-judgmental. But the reality is, I'm very judgmental.
And yeah, I'm glad that you call that out. And this is no shame, no judgment. It's like, okay, yeah.
And I think the reality, or what I'm learning currently, is I'm judgmental. There's some people that just rub me the wrong way. And guess what? It's okay. It's okay. Right?
Mhm.
We have choices to make as far as who we spend our time with. And as an entrepreneur, I have more flexibility and more decision making ability to like decide, okay, my day is made up of these hours. Who am I going to spend time with? And this
Mhm.
applies to personal too, right?
Mhm.
I think we all know that family is family, and we don't necessarily get to pick our family. We get to pick our
Mhm.
friends.
Yeah.
But we also have the choice as far as family, as far as setting boundaries, staying aligned to our values, staying aligned to what gives us energy. This is my new favorite word for, I think, the next decade and probably the rest of my life, is what gives you energy.
Mhm.
Do more of that. And the things that drain your energy, just be self-aware of it and limit yourself, because it does nobody any favors to keep doing stuff that drains your energy. In fact,
Mhm.
it is detrimental to you and everybody around you, because then
Yeah.
you're not your best version of yourself.
Mhm. Would you have thought this way if you were still in corporate?
You know, I'm going to say probably not,
Mhm.
because if I would have stayed in corporate America, I would have very much stayed in the mentality of, well, I got to do what's right for the group, the organization. I'm going to put my quote unquote needs aside and do what needs to be done, because we're part of a whole, right?
Yeah.
And so I look at that very differently now as an entrepreneur, that my whole is really the world,
Mhm.
right? And the world is a big place. So I can choose to be with different people and focus on different things and still be part of a whole.
Mhm.
It's a different kind of whole entity than than a big company.
Mhm.
Does that make sense?
Makes perfect sense. Makes perfect sense. The reason why I asked that question is I can tell you're an entrepreneur. Just And this is not to dismiss or um, minimize people who are in corporate. And I feel that when you do walk this journey of being an entrepreneur, like you and I, it's a very spiritual journey. And when I
Mhm.
say spiritual, you find out a lot about yourself
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah.
that you probably would never have if you had stayed in a corporate job, because it tests your bounds, it tests you, and you really have to get to know who you are when you take on this journey of being an entrepreneur.
I just had a thought.
Mhm,
You know why I think that's the case is when you leave corporate America and start your own business, basically your day and the things that you focus on, it's a blank slate.
mhm,
Whereas before, things were already structured for you as far
yeah,
as what you needed to do, when you needed to do it, who you're going to work with. Everything was very structured.
yeah,
So you didn't really have to make those decisions. I mean, you made some decisions, but not
mhm,
a lot. And so when you start your own business, it's a blank slate.
mhm,
You have to make every single decision,
mhm,
like about everything.
mhm,
There's no schedule that dictates how you're going to spend the day. You have to set your own schedule. And when you have to make every single decision for yourself, that's where discovering
yeah,
yourself comes into play.
mhm,
Because then it's like, wait a minute, okay, well, I got to figure this out. Well, what do I want? I don't know what I want. I've never really had to ask myself that.
right, yeah,
Nobody, nobody's asked me that.
right. Yeah, you're right on because and when you spoke about energy, I could tell you were an entrepreneur because as an entrepreneur, we have to put so much of our energy into what matters. And the
Mhm.
things and the people that don't matter, you're like, gosh, they're really sucking my energy. Is this something that I want or need? Because my energy has to be put in things that do matter, especially when you're an entrepreneur. Like your energy and time is your currency, it's part of your new currency.
Mhm. Absolutely. And in hindsight, well, not even in hindsight, my message to all the listeners, whether you're an entrepreneur or not, is we all need to be more intentional about how we spend our energy.
Mhm.
And in entrepreneurship, we're forced to do that because we have to make decisions literally about every single minute thing in the whole entire world. So,
Right.
um, but if you work for a company, you also need to make decisions about how you spend your energy. You can make
Mhm.
decisions for that. You don't have to be at the mercy of a job for that. You have the choice to kind of state and communicate your needs to others,
Mhm.
team. And if they don't listen, then you have very much the choice to change jobs.
Yeah, yeah. And what have you learned about yourself since you started this journey?
What have I learned about myself? One thing I have learned about myself is, and I'll attribute this to a book that I very religiously keep.
Okay, the 25 mindsets. Okay.
Yes, Karen Whitten is a fantastic person, and she's so smart. And there's 3 pieces to the mindset. So there's 25 mindsets in the world, and you have one of them.
Mhm.
And one thing I learned about that and about myself is really centered around my purpose. And we talk about, you should find your purpose in life, you should find your calling, and those are all cliche type of statements, but I didn't really understand what that meant until I dug into the 25 mindsets. So Karen states that basically your purpose is the thing, is the thing that you desire most for yourself,
Mhm.
and you give it to others. And when I read about that and learned about that, I'm like, whoa, that is so powerful. The thing that I want most for myself,
Mhm.
that thing I should give to others so they can have those things.
Mhm.
That's my purpose in life.
Mhm.
And what I love about that is it aligns to things that are natural to me. Like, of
Yeah.
course, if I'm centered around something that I deeply want for myself,
Mhm.
and then I give it to others, it's just so easy to do that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
So for me, what I found that I want most
Excuse
for
me.
myself, I
Mhm.
really look through my notes really quick, is what I want most for myself is just to really go after what I want in life and be supported in that journey. To feel like the thing that I want matters,
Mhm.
like it's important, it's not dismissed,
Mhm.
and that I have people in my life that will support me undeniably around that. And if I change what's important to me, they'll continue supporting me. And support looks like this. It's like they support me undeniably without doubt.
Mhm.
Versus, so they help me think about how can it work versus why would you want to do that?
Hmm.
You know what I mean?
I do. I do. That's why I went, hmm. And what you're asking is so simple, and yet it is so hard to receive that.
Mhm. Mhm. The other thing that I also have learned is why would you want to do that? That is a good question.
Mhm.
While I don't like it when people ask me that question,
Yeah. Why would you want to do that?
yeah, it's a little bit judgmental, it's a
Yes.
little bit dismissive, all those things, right? The
Yeah.
undertone with that
Yeah.
kind of question is just a little bit irritating.
Mhm. I think every entrepreneur has had that question asked to them. Why'd you want to do that?
Yeah.
Okay. And you're just like, oh, okay. And then you feel judged and shamed that you want that.
Mhm. And so while I don't like that question, it's a very good question.
Hmm.
And the thing that I have learned about myself, and entrepreneurship has given me the time and space to do it, is I need to spend time and energy to reflect on what I want and why do I want to do things. It is an important question to answer for myself, not for
Hmm.
anybody else,
Yeah.
but for myself.
Hmm.
So that I have, that North Star defined, and it's guiding me in my behaviors and decisions, because life is a lot easier when you understand what you want, and then you can just say, okay, everything I do is based off of this. It's so simple. It's really that simple. And I'm enjoying that freedom to say, yep, that thing over there, that's what I want.
Hmm.
Here's why I want it, and I'm going to ignore your undertone of judgment,
Hmm.
but I'm going after it. Life can be so much simpler when you say, yep, I'm doing everything based off of that.
Hmm.
For example, you know that my husband and I are working towards being a full-time, living full-time in our van.
Yeah.
And you can imagine some of the comments that we get when we
I
talk.
can imagine. I can imagine. I mean, I'm sure, we live in the Midwest. We're very comfortable, safe people. And to take a life that is very unpredictable, most people are like, why would you want to do that? You have a nice house, you have the American dream. Why would you want to give that away and travel in a van?
Mhm. Yes. And the reason why, even though that's an irritating question,
Do you ever want to say F off?
I'm used to it now, but
Uh-huh.
the reason why we want to give up our uh, creature, what was it? Creature comforts. Is that
Mhm.
the word? Our comforts of our home and, the American dream, the American life is we love, or I especially love exploring. I love seeing new things. I love nature. Nature is so beautiful. The national parks that we have in this country are amazing, and it makes you just feel like you are such a small speck in this universe,
Yeah.
in a beautiful world that runs with or without you.
Hmm.
It just it's humbling, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it also helps me and my husband be present with nature and to really just say all the worries and things that we're dealing with, they don't really matter. I mean,
All the bullshit. All the bullshit that we think we should care about. And once you're in nature and you're mindful, you're just like, wow, all that bullshit really does not matter.
it doesn't. It really is a very powerful tool to be mindful. It's
Yes.
a very powerful tool to help you gain perspective
Yeah.
on living and just being alive in this great big world of beauty and awe. And we get to meet so many different people, and they have so many different stories to tell. And it's just, people are very interesting no matter what.
Yeah.
And so we really enjoy that. There are obviously days where I'm like, I don't want to talk to anybody. I'm going to be over here by myself. Just, but then there's other days where I'm like, hi, my name's Oie. I'm from Minnesota and I travel in my van. What's your name? What are you doing here? Right?
Yeah.
And they tell their story, and it's always fascinating.
Yeah. Again, do you think you would be here right now if you had gotten that promotion? Do you ever think about that? Or you're like, nope, I don't think about that at all?
I never think about that. I'm not one for regret too much. I
Hmm.
mean, there's some things where obviously we all have regret in our lives, but I'm not one to ponder an alternative life. I'm very much a go-getter from a once I make a decision, I'm going there, right? And
Hmm.
I'm going there tomorrow. And so my brain, all my energy
Hmm.
focused on how am I going to make that work?
Yeah.
And when you're so focused on that question, how am I going to make it work? I just don't have time to think about anything else. Does that make
Hmm.
sense?
It makes perfect sense. And a lot of us have been rejected in some form or in life, business, whatever. And sometimes the rejection is redirection and really is for your protection.
Mm, yes. It doesn't feel good to be rejected, that's for sure. But you're saying from a silver lining perspective or from a universe and fate perspective, it's probably
Mhm.
meant to be. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, yeah. Because do you feel like you were meant to be on this current path right now with you and I talking and, living in a van and being in the national parks?
Yes. My husband definitely says, if he was with us right now, he would
Yeah.
say, "Way, this has always been your MO." And he has stories of, when we were first dating and first got married, of my dreams and all those things. And it just, at the time, it just wasn't practical because we were busy building the American dream, right? In our own lives and having kids and getting raises and climbing, corporate ladders and getting bigger houses and all those things. We're busy doing all those things. And yet there's this pull that I've always had around traveling and exploring. It's really more about the exploring and experiencing new things that I've never experienced before. That's what really
Mhm.
motivates me is the exploring.
Yeah. Yeah. And so is that how you came up with the chase after you want advocate?
Yes. I heard this I heard this phrase from somebody, I can't remember. I think it was a podcast I was listening to a few years ago. And basically the guest said, you should chase after what you want. And it was just such a simple statement. I'm like, hell yeah.
Mhm.
Yes, we should all chase after what we want for sure. And so, one, before you chase after what you want, you really got to know yourself first. A lot
Mhm.
of times when I talk to people, they'll say, well, I'm not sure what I want. And that's just a clue to me that they haven't spent the time to really sit down and reflect to know themselves as a person. And we all have our circumstances as far as why that's the case.
Mhm.
But I will really use this time talking to you and being on air is, for me, I would really, or my advice is to really spend time to know yourself. And the reason why you want to know yourself is so that you can be yourself.
Mhm.
And when you're able, when you give yourself time and space to be yourself, then what you want is very clear.
Mhm.
For me, what I want, I kind of put some criteria together as far as my North Star, because
Yeah.
it's not just one thing, it's a combination of things.
Mhm.
For me, what I want is I want to support people I love and care for. Yet, I want to be clear on my own aspirations and goals.
Mhm.
So it's not one or the other, it's both.
Mhm.
But there's a balance there, right? Because
Mhm.
as you know, supporting the people that you love and care for, when they need support, it's just going to come up all of a sudden and it's not going to be planned and it's not
Mhm.
according to, my aspirations and goals. It's going to be, a surprise. And
Mhm.
and
Tuesday, 4 p.m. I have availability. Let's have it there.
yeah, so there's that balance. And then I really enjoy connecting with people who are kind, who are generous, who are funny. One of my best friends is so funny. She cracks me up all the time about just everything. I mean, when I'm feeling down, I just hang out with her and she makes me feel better just because she's funny. And I love hanging out with people who like to experience new things like I do.
Mhm.
I also like hang out with people who have knowledge and perspectives that I don't have to help me grow and learn about something new. I met with a friend yesterday and she just came back from a mission trip to Tanzania and
Hey.
I learned so much from her based on her trip. The other thing about my North Star is, as we already talked about this with nature, is I really, really love experiencing all the sights and sounds and smells and textures of the world. Really,
Mhm.
even the icky smells. It's all part of
It's part of nature.
the
Yeah.
and the other thing I love, and I'm a big nerd about it, is I love being immersed in stories through movies, through books, through storytellers. The amount of movies that I watch you'd probably be shocked. It's one of my favorite things.
Yeah. Yeah. Any particular genre that really draws you or all of it?
Oh, I really love sci-fi.
Okay.
Yeah, I really love sci-fi just because you know, it digs into things that are fascinating and not normal, and uh, make you think about things that you've never thought about and how things could be in the future and possibilities and all those fun things, right?
Yeah. You're a very big picture person.
Yeah, right. It's probably, maybe I like it because it helps me feel humble and small, right? In a good way.
Mm-hmm.
Like, sometimes we think about feeling small in a negative way, but I mean like feeling small from a perspective of we're just one speck of sand in this big universe, and we only know like a tiny little fraction of information about what the universe is about. And so when you think about that, it's like, whoa, what's really out there?
Right.
Fascinating, right?
Right. Yeah. It sounds to me like you're a very curious mind.
Oh, yes, yes, yes. That's probably why a lot of people do say, well, you're really good at asking lots of great questions. I am
That,
curious.
that's a positive right there.
Yes.
Hmm. Has where has did that curiosity kind of help lead you to what you're doing today, or how does that fit in with like your business and what you're doing today?
Well, I think what's led me to doing what I'm doing today as a business coach and helping entrepreneurs is probably a couple factors. Is one is my kind of uh, what Karen in this book calls your passion,
Hmm.
and she talks about passion in a different way than I've heard people talk about passion. So passion is really something that you're motivated to do.
Okay.
And what I'm motivated to do is really to support people and make sure that they have what they need to succeed.
Hmm.
And so when I talked about when my husband owned a business and I saw he needed help, I'm just naturally motivated to do those things.
Hmm.
So my clients that I help, they hire me because they need help and they're open to help and they're open to doing things differently in their business, and that just gives me a lot of energy.
Hmm.
The other thing as far as what's led me to where I am, I would say is that really need to support people in a way that allows them to get what they want,
Hmm.
and really make sure whatever reason why they want that, I'm there to not judge, I'm there to support them. Okay, what do you want? All right, and I'll be like, how can we make that work?
Okay.
I say
So nothing is impossible.
it is not, nothing is impossible. It's just a matter of how can we make that work? How creative can we be?
Hmm.
What criteria do we need to define that path that gets you there, right?
Hmm.
Yes, nothing is impossible. I believe that. I believe each and every one of us can do literally anything. We just got to decide that's what we want to do
Yeah.
and then go do it.
Yeah.
Some support and help,
Yeah.
obviously.
Yeah. I think we do this kind of work, entrepreneurs, this podcast to really empower people that nothing is impossible, even though we have other people that tells us, the conversation, really? You want that? Are you why? And a lot of people I think are afraid to think big and dream big. And when they come to you, do they have these reservations of sharing their vision with you or not at all?
I think it depends on the person. I
Okay.
have some people that will share with me their big dreams right away.
Okay.
And then I have clients that after after coaching for a bit, they realize, you know what, Oi, I've been thinking too small. And I just want to clarify, dreaming big doesn't necessarily mean more clients, more money, more employees, more, to me, dreaming big doesn't necessarily mean more.
Yeah.
From a woman that is going from a big house to an apartment to a tiny little van, dreaming big doesn't necessarily mean more things or more people or more money or
Mm-hmm.
more hours in the day.
Mm-hmm.
Dreaming big means going after what you want and not letting challenges stop you,
Mm-hmm.
letting the challenges formulate your best way to get there. Dreaming big means going after the thing that you want and persevering through it all, and being solid in the why you're going after that. Not to answer the question from someone who has a little slight judgment tone in their question about why would you want to do that. It's for you to answer yourself. Why would you want to do that? Because as you know that anything worth pursuing in life, it's going to have its challenges and big challenges, because otherwise, if it was easy, everybody would be doing it, right?
Right, right. I kind of joked like if everybody could Amazon Prime it, we all would. We could Amazon Prime dreams, we would. I mean, I'll be like prime like this, you know? And that's why. And this is not to say not everybody can do this. And it's just why. Like, why would you want that? Why are you doing this?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I told you my whys, so those are
Hmm.
the cool thing about that, or the cool thing for me,
Yeah.
is I'm all about having life be simple.
Yeah.
And when you define your whys or define your North Star,
Hmm.
what you want in life, it makes life a lot simpler because you know exactly what you're going after. And when you need to make decisions or you need to formulate new behaviors or habits to help you get what you want, it's pretty easy to start doing those things because it's totally aligned to what you want in life.
Hmm.
It's like a no-brainer to me.
Hmm. It's a no-brainer. And doing the work that I do, being a mental health therapist, it is so hard for many people.
Yes, I just want to clarify, simple is not the same thing as easy.
Yes. Simple is not the same thing as easy.
Yes, I agree. Simple actually, in fact, is harder
Hmm.
because simple means you're being intentional versus reacting to whatever life throws at you. It's easy just to react to life.
Hmm.
That's easy.
Yeah.
But to be intentional about your life and figure out what are the simple things that you want and why you want it, and then change your behaviors and decisions to be intentional to that, because it's going to go, I wouldn't say necessarily always against the grain of life.
Hmm.
Sometimes it is. And so anytime it's against the reaction of life, it's
Hmm.
hard. It is hard.
It is hard. So when clients come, so do you work mainly with individuals or do you work with businesses or what is mainly your clientele?
So I work with the owners of businesses,
Okay.
and they hire me either to be in one-on-one kind of sessions. I do have a monthly group coaching program where there's a cohort of business owners that are together.
Hmm.
And so those are the two ways that I do it. I do workshops also, which would be in a group setting. So I do one-on-one and group setting work.
Hmm. When someone comes to you and they haven't done their internal work, and do you have any recommendations for them when you said, I would really recommend people to get to know themselves? And honestly, again, as a therapist, as a coach, I realize a lot of people never took the time to know themselves. And so when you work with a new client where you're like, this person hasn't done their internal work, like, what do you recommend for them?
Well, first of all, I recommend that first they need to make the decision to do the internal work. As you know, we can't, as coaches and support people, we can't help unless you make the decision that that's what you want to do for yourself.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
first, you got to make the decision that you want to discover yourself and figure out why are the reasons of why you want to do that, not because you need to answer the question of why would you want to do that,
Mhm.
but for yourself. And then figure out what do you need in order to know yourself, what parts of you don't you know, or what's interesting that you've heard other people, like hang out with others who know each other, know themselves, so that
Mhm.
it inspires you to do some of the things that they're doing, because people who know themselves have common behaviors and habits. For example, they journal,
Mhm.
they hire coaches to help them kind of sit down and have the time and space to ask themselves very important questions.
Mhm.
Because sometimes people don't know themselves because they don't know what questions to ask themselves, right? And this is where hiring someone who is skilled at that is really helpful.
Mhm.
So those are the two things that I would say to do right away is one, make the decision first, and then hang out with people who do know themselves, and whether that's hiring a coach from a professional perspective, or finding a friend that knows themselves and hanging out more with them. You could do a variety of different things to really get you in that space, from a time and energy perspective.
Mhm. That was lovely said. I said lovely said because, it seems, and I don't wanna say common sense because that sounds very, judgy, and it's like, okay, yes, these are questions that we ask ourselves, like, "What's most important to you? What do you value? What don't you like? What do you like?" Things that you discuss about, and more often than not, people don't think about these questions.
Hmm. Right, because in society we aren't necessarily rewarded to do those things.
No,
Yep.
no. Yeah. Did you did you have to do a lot of your own internal work?
Yes. Yes. Journaling, for example, has been a key tool that I have done, that I have spent time and energy to do. And I'll be honest, I don't do it every day, but I definitely do a lot of journaling when I need it.
Mhm.
When there's conflict in my thought process, or I don't know what I want, or maybe I thought I knew what I want and something happened and now it's changed my perspective on things, and now I'm not sure if that's what I want.
Mhm.
And so, yes, I've done a lot of internal work to really ask myself some important questions. And when journaling, you don't necessarily have to ask yourself questions. You can just start writing things down, right?
Mhm.
Getting those thoughts out of your head and onto paper where you can see it in a different medium, and formulating it into phrases or sentences that make sense to you, that just that process of transferring thoughts to paper is huge. The other thing too, as far as helping myself, I've been hanging out with different people than I have been in my corporate world. I've been hanging out with people that are self-aware, and
Mhm.
people who are self-aware talk about very different things.
Can you give us an example? Because I too, you know, I've been on this journey for 2.5 years, and the energy that I used to give other people, I'm like, I don't think I can do this anymore. And we become very almost, I don't want to say particular, but we have to really pick and choose who we want to give our energy to. And
Mhm.
so, how has it been different, like when you say being around with corporate people versus like the people that you are with now?
I think it's, the difference. Here's an example.
Mhm.
The people that I hang out with talk about things like triggers. Wait, you really need to understand your triggers. And I'm like, oh,
Sorry,
well,
I'm just laughing because that's such a therapy.
and these are people that are not therapists. These are
Yeah.
health coaches, nutrition coaches, my
Mhm.
own business coach. And it's like, okay, you need to understand your triggers and just know that triggers aren't necessarily things that make you upset. That's one way that you can react to a trigger, but it might make you shut down, or it might make you actually cry, or different triggers have different emotional results in them.
Mhm.
And that was just like, whoa, I never even thought about that, right?
Yeah.
And so since my friends and my coach have brought that up in the last couple months, it does make me think about triggers, and it makes me pay attention to my body about,
Yes.
ooh, I'm feeling like there's steam coming out of my ears, or I'm starting to feel like I have anxious breaths about
Mhm.
something. And it's like, I think that's a trigger.
Yeah.
This person that I'm talking with is triggering me about something. And so that self-awareness is really interesting. I'm not skilled at it as far as understanding triggers, but at least now I'm noticing
Mhm.
when I'm getting triggered. And then I'm spending some time doing a little bit of journaling to kind of think through, well, what about that made me upset or sad or anxious or whatever the feeling was. So that's an example.
I just want to clap. It's like when I do this podcast, sometimes it's like not intended to be therapy, but it comes off very therapeutic of what you just discussed. It's like, what are my triggers and why am I feeling this way? This My body is reacting this way, and I'm trusting my body. And what is it saying to me? I'm journaling about this to really better understand why I'm feeling the way that I'm feeling.
Mhm. Mhm. And in my previous life, I just we those kind of conversations just never came up. I mean, it was always about, the work or the family life, or, what did you do this weekend? Or if there were problems at work, we'd talk about that, but we wouldn't necessarily talk about things like this because it's just not the same environment. And so it's been
Right.
really fun for me to hang out with different people and and talk about things that I've never ever talked about with others in my life.
Right. I think what I would have done in the corporate world was I would have gone happy hour. I would have gone to happy hour and drink my Cosmos and been like, oh my God, like Rebecca, like, did you hear what Rebecca said? Just like have those type of conversations because before I got into this work, that's how I would cope was going to happy hours
Mhm.
and just kind of like bitch and complain about that particular coworker, or let's be honest, our boss, and just talk about that. And now it's like, okay, why am I reacting to this person the way that I'm reacting? It's like your interactions and your reactions, and it's all about that. And it's like deeper thinking,
Mhm.
problem solving for ourselves.
Right. And we're able to do deeper thinking because there's more time and space to do it.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
exactly, exactly. Yeah. I can always tell when people have done their work, and I can tell you've done your work.
Oh, thank you. I have a lot of work to do, but it's
And it's never ending though, that's the
well, it
thing.
is. You're right.
Never ending.
Never ending. And the cool thing about it is this stage of doing the work, as you call it,
Mhm,
it it feels enlightening is probably the
mhm,
word. Because every time I realize, oh, there's an opportunity for me to do the work, I get excited about it.
mhm.
And then I do the work, and once I discover things about myself that I never knew before, it's very enlightening because it empowers me to do things differently in my life so that I'm more aligned to who I am. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. You use the word align. One of my favorite words, align.
That is also my new favorite word is being aligned. Because I tell my daughter this, the reason why you feel ickiness, no matter what it is, it's
Mhm.
probably because you're not aligned.
Right, right. And again, this is not for our audience to say, well, we're doing our work, so we're feeling aligned. And it truly is, though. Once you start working on yourself and asking you these questions, like, what do you want? What don't you want? Like, what is my why? Everything goes back to alignment.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. What's interesting for me is now that I'm a little bit more self-aware,
Hmm.
when things happen, it's a lot easier for me in hindsight to kind of look at a situation and go, oh, that's why I felt that way because I was misaligned in XYZ.
Hmm.
So that's really cool because I've never had the skill or ability to do that. The next level of skill that I'm excited to do sometime in the future is be aware of it before the situation happens
Hmm.
so that I kind of stop the situation in its tracks and not really go there because I'm aware of it early enough in the process where I can prevent a situation from happening. Does that make sense?
It does. And being aware of your triggers, would you say, okay, these are my triggers. Next time, be more, I don't want to say careful, but just be more mindful of this, the situation that I will be in, the people that I surround myself with, to ensure that I am mindful of my surroundings and my environment.
That too, but I was thinking more around, knowing yourself, and when a
Mhm.
situation comes up, realizing, "Ooh, this thing is not aligned to me, so I should put my boundary down. I should say no,"
Mhm.
all those things, to do that in the moment versus having like a gut feeling and going, your body reacting to something that is out of alignment with you and you
Mhm.
ignore it and
Mhm.
then you do it anyway. And then in hindsight, go realize, the reason why that wasn't great is because I was not aligned to myself. So,
Mhm.
really kind of learning to pay attention to the misalignment from the beginning and then being skilled at
Mhm.
setting those boundaries and saying no.
I was going to use the B word, boundaries, my favorite B word. It's really learning what your boundaries are when you go on this path. It's all about boundaries.
You know, uh, I just had a thought. Yes, it's definitely learning your boundaries, but it's really just learning about you and
Mhm.
what it looks like to be aligned. And then when you get misaligned, knowing that it's a misalignment. So it's a little bit, I see it a little bit different than setting the boundaries, because to me boundaries are, you know, like a border,
Mhm.
and you're working within that border, right?
Mhm.
What I see it as, I think the end result is the same, but it's more like a string down the middle,
Mhm.
because you yourself is that kind of middle part. And when you get misaligned, you get pulled from center, right? And then you got to come back to be aligned, right? So
Mhm.
the result is the same whether you stay within boundaries
Mhm.
or you stay aligned. The
Yeah.
result is the same, but the thought process is a little bit different. And I think,
Mhm.
to your point, whatever works for you as far as what helps you, whether
Yeah.
it's setting boundaries or saying, you know what, this is me and I got to stay aligned,
Mhm.
whatever mindset you need to kind of do things that are aligned to you is what you should do.
I like your image of the string about how it goes straight and then when you're misaligned, is it like just like out
Hmm.
or yeah, I just imagine this, using my imagination how like it just sticks out.
It's around the balance and being in the middle.
Mhm.
When you're in the middle, you're aligned.
Yeah.
And when you're out of balance, you're getting pulled to one side or the other and you're not aligned.
Mhm. I like that. Yeah. Yeah. What else have you learned about yourself throughout this whole process of forging your own path here?
Mm, I've learned that there are things that come up. I don't know what to call it. It's maybe fear. Fear is maybe something. Maybe that's what it is fear, but it's something.
Mhm.
Let's pretend it's fear.
Okay.
Things will come up, feelings, thoughts, they're fear-based. And they're just what I'm learning is they're strong. Like gosh, they're undeniable.
Mhm.
And it's distracting and it makes me start to doubt myself in all sorts of crazy annoying ways. And I'm learning that, you know, I do have the ability to just kind of like stomp it out, but I probably shouldn't ignore it in that
Mhm.
way, right?
Mhm.
Pay attention to it.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm learning is I'm really bad at like ignoring things, and I
Mhm.
really need to pay attention to it. Not to say I need to, you know, base my decisions and actions based on fear. That's not what I'm
Mhm.
saying. But pay attention to, ooh, what is that feeling? Is it fear? And why do I feel it? And is it just something natural, or do I need to pay attention to it? Do I need to make some adjustments? Do I need to reset my mind,
Mhm.
reframing? What is it that,
Yeah.
why is it that it's coming up? Because there's always a reason why it's coming up, right?
Yeah.
So that's probably what I'm learning is that fear is just, I don't like it. It gets in my way.
Would you say there's a lot of fear when you forge your own path and become an entrepreneur?
Oh yeah.
So anybody who's watching this, fear is it's gonna happen. We're all gonna feel it.
Mhm. I think the important part about the fear is you just know it, you're not in it by yourself.
No.
And if you feel like you're by yourself, then you should definitely journal on that.
Mhm.
Are you truly by yourself? Because sometimes we put ourselves in situations where we have isolated ourselves and all those things. But one, have we isolated ourselves where we don't have support?
Mhm.
Or are we just not using the support that's available to us and we're putting ourselves in a corner and pretending that that support isn't there?
Mhm.
And so that's what I would say is, you know, fear's a real thing, but we don't need to sit into that very long.
Yeah.
In fact, I'm an advocate for getting out of that space as fast as possible.
Yeah.
It's only gonna hold us back, right?
Yeah, yeah. I found that journaling my fears, scarcities has been the best thing ever. It's like, oh gosh, I'm feeling this way. Why am I feeling this way? It's okay to feel this way.
Hmm. I like what you said because it acknowledging the fear is important.
Hmm.
Don't dismiss it or don't deny yourself that feeling.
Hmm.
It's coming up for a reason.
Right? It's part of that internal journey. Whew. And when I say that, it's like, whew, I mean, it's a lot of work to go through this reflection, internal growing, And all the emotions that you and I discuss in your episode, it's so real. And this is the reason why I wanted to do this podcast, is to show people the real side of this journey of what we all go through.
Mhm. Mhm. Yep.
Yeah.
Very real.
Yes. And so last question for you. What does
Mhm.
owning it mean to you?
Owning it means to me to really go after what you want and then live a life that's intentionally aligned to all the things that we talked about. Be intentional. That's what it means to me. And I know it might feel excessive to say be intentional with everything I do in order to align to my North Star and to myself. But I mean, really, we only have one life. And why would we live it less than we should?
Half ass. I think of half ass.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Why
I,
wouldn't we do everything that we can to align our life to ourselves and our North Star?
hmm
I don't think it's excessive to say that. I think it's essential to say that because time's ticking. You're only here on this earth for a little bit.
Yeah.
And, the amount in the time that you are here living, there's even a shorter period of time when you're able to do the things that you want to do from just, capability, mind, body, soul perspective. So
hmm
go after it, right?
Right. It's the quality of life. And it's like, why do we have to wait to have our quality of life? Like, why can't we have it now versus when we're 60, 70, if we make it to that age to retire?
Yeah. I, I'm glad you brought this up because
Mm-hmm.
recently Darren and I just got back from a 7-week trip to Utah. So we spent 7 weeks in Utah and we were working and playing from the road and we saw something very distinguishing. We were amongst people that were either in their 60s, late 60s,
Mm-hmm.
or in their 20s. And then there was us. And
So one spectrum to another.
right, because my husband's 54, I'm 50, and it felt great to be able to do the things that we're doing because the 60-year-olds, the 65-year-olds, the 70-year-olds, they were doing their thing too, but a lot of them couldn't do some of the things that we were doing because we're 10, 15, 20 years younger and we're able to do it. So it felt really great to go on crazy hard hikes with the 20 some year olds. Because we still have, energy to do it. We're trailing behind them, but still,
Yeah, you're doing it though.
seeing
Yeah.
the things that they see. And while the parks are very, very accessible these days,
Yeah.
you know, depending on your ability, you're going to see beautiful sights, and then if you have higher ability to see things, you're going to see things that very, very few people see.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So quality of life, forging your own path and finding your own quality of life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Yeah.
whatever that might be.
Yeah. Any final words before?
You know, I think my final words is I would say stop reacting to life and start living it. Decide what you want and go after it. That's what I would say.
Beautiful. Beautiful. And one last question. If people want to work with you, do you only work with people in a particular state or do you work with people from all over, or what is it?
Yes, I work with people all over the United States. Most of my sessions are virtual since
Okay.
we are in Minnesota at the moment, but we're not always in Minnesota. So I would say 95% of my sessions are virtual, and then once in a while we have the opportunity to meet in person.
Wow. Living the life here, Oi. Living the life here. And you created this life.
I did. I designed it specifically to exactly how I wanted it to be.
So anybody who's watching, listening this, you can create your own life.
Mhm. And
And chase after what you want, as
yeah,
you said.
and I highly recommend it.
Yeah, yeah. Well, thank you so much, Oi. I enjoyed speaking with you, and I learned so much from you. It felt like very spiritual talking with you today.
Well, thank you. Well, it was a pleasure being here. I was very excited to come on with you and share my story. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. So, all of Oi's information will be in the description link box. And if you want to connect with Oi, all of that is in. And if you're not hit the subscribe like button, please do so. So, again, everybody, thank you for joining me for another episode of Owning It. And I will see you all next time. Take care. Bye.